So here we are, edge of extinction. Wow, last night, powerful talk here in Northern California, and you were daring to urge yourself into this place of vulnerability, of really sharing how it feels to be with this information over and over again, and to share some of the deep emotional stuff that has happened to you. So maybe as a way of wrapping, give us a little bit when you first left the university and the family and how that was.
Yeah, and this came up last night because the night before we were at a potluck with about 20 people. Very trusting crowd, people who got near-term human extinction to their core and wanted to have serious conversations. And a woman who was there, Carol, said, you know what really makes you connect with people? What really does the job is your humor, you're presenting the data, connecting the dots, and also when you show some vulnerability. And I hadn't thought of that before, but she said, you're vulnerable just like everybody else. And when you show that side of you, people are more likely to resonate with your message than they would be otherwise. So I thought about that for a while. First, of course, my response was to be cynical and put the shell on and use gallow humor to push that away. But then I thought about it, yeah, she's probably right. And so how do I be real? How do I be authentic? How do I be me and show that vulnerable side without crocodile tears, without, faking it, that
Right.
sort of thing. And so it brings to mind when I left the university, and even before, as early as 2002, when I was working on a book about climate change. That's when I came to the realization that we were headed for near-term human extinction. So that's 14 years ago. And I left active service at the university 7 years ago. And so I've been dealing with this for a long time. And it comes like waves sometimes. Sometimes it just comes over me. Other times I think, I sort of view the world through the lens of Camus, the absurdist philosopher. And it's also absurd anyway. What's any different about that piece of absurdity compared to everything else? But of course I'm vulnerable. Of course this is painful for me, and it's been painful for a long time, and it has affected my relations with people. When I left active service at the university, basically everybody was left behind. My colleagues, my coworkers, most of the members of my family, everybody except my wife basically said, we don't really want to deal with this crazy man anymore.
Yeah, and as a scientist and as a then really hurt human, it's like it's much easier to be, I'm going to be very scientific about this, and if I go further, I'm going to try to be funny or light about it, but you probably don't want to hear what's really going on for me because these other people didn't want to hear what was going on for me, and that's
And mostly I didn't want them to hear what was going on with me, because it's hard to reveal ourselves. It's hard to put your heart out there because some people won't treat it with the tenderness that our hearts deserve and really need. And so I put my heart out there on my sleeve, and somebody comes along and punches it.
Right.
Because they don't really want to hear my message, and they're angry like I was when I first learned about this. So
And
it
now
shouldn't be a
this
big
is
surprise.
this is all happening so fast, and you're meeting with people who've been soaking in this message for years and having these deeper conversations, and here you are having to share with people. Wow, I think we might be down to our last few years. And what is that? Where does that live in you?
Well, it's bizarre still. There's nothing surprising to me anymore about we're in our final years, because I've been carrying that message for a long time and presenting the evidence for a long time, and I reached acceptance of that a long time ago. So that's not the hard part. It's gratifying to see that other people are getting there, but horrifying to see the data that allows them to get there and the message that allows them to get there. It's not like I want this to happen.
Right.
It's not like I'm the serial killer here that
Right.
triggered near-term human extinction.
You're in that
Full
weird
climate
spot where
change.
you wish you were wrong,
Right,
but
of
at the same
course.
time your whole life was built on putting things together right,
Right,
and,
yeah.
and accurate.
Yeah, and I'm open to a miracle or two or three or 900, which is about what we need at this point. I'm not. I'd say I'm the leading voice of near-term human extinction. I'm not the leading proponent of near-term, which is
Right.
what a lot of people describe me as.
Right.
I'm not out there saying, yes, this is what we need, this is what we deserve. And that's not it at all, because that's anti-scientific too, to place that value judgment onto phenomena that are underway in the natural world.
Right. But you're helping people take a step back. You're helping people look at the bigger picture of what is humanity, who are we as a species, where do we think we have gone or could go, and all in the context of we seem to have messed up our planet in ways that are irreparable.
Right, and coming at this from the perspective of a conservation biologist, which is relatively unique, is important, and also coming at this from the perspective of somebody who's been living with it for a long time and has reached acceptance and gallows humor, and now trying to balance the message between that gallows humor, which is another way of pushing it away, and that vulnerability that I, like everybody else, am feeling, right? So that's the tough part of this whole message, is keeping those balls in the air, keeping people interested enough in the message that they might actually live differently, like we could have been living all along, like decent human beings.
Yeah. And juggling the grief and the gratitude at the same time. It's still just an utterly gorgeous world, and people are still beautiful, and life can still be such a rush, and yet that has to be lived from a place of understanding that time is short.
Right. That's the great lead into the tagline.
There you
Time
go.
is short. At the
Time
edge
is
of
short.
extinction, only love remains.